So who is the fastest metal band? The sickest, the heaviest, the this, the that's, well, all that to come up because this is HELLCAST. HELLCAST. And we're just going to dive right into it. So if you're new here, briefmetalproductions.com. Check out everything that we're going to talk about in this episode, as well as all the other episodes. Hell's Headbangers, J-Dog. Boom, let's get into it. So, the heaviest band, right? So when I'm approached with this conversation, there's two thoughts I have. First, we got to keep it in. It could go really kind of, I don't know, like essentials and obvious and boring to be like, well, it's Raining Blood, fastest. So I want to keep it a little more thoughtful about bands that, okay, sure, they might not have been obvious like Slayer, but like contenders had the voice and the time of day, because fast records are still going to exist. Heaviest records are still going to exist outside of everybody knowing about them. Mm-hmm. So because when I do think about that, like heaviest record, I have questions. First is define heavy.
Yeah.
Is it the crunchy kind of more bass heavy guitar that I would assume that's what most people mean?
Well,
or,
in my mind, because there's definitely that. First off, when I say that, because when people say heavy, I hate when people bring up these examples.
Heavy.
Well, no, I hate when people bring up these examples like these doom bands that are just boring as fuck, and it's like,
but it's so heavy.
It's
still boring,
but it's still so shitty. It's got to at least have some. It's got to at least have. Maybe not necessarily blast beats, but that'd be cool. But at least like an upbeat drum.
Well, it's got to be interesting.
Because
Doom doesn't need blast.
A great heavy death metal album that has very little blast, if any. Off the top of my head, I can think it's like Baphomet the Dead Shall Inherit It. It's a heavy album, but it's not like fucking just this boring ass fucking. It's at least mid pace.
Yeah,
right? It's like, okay, so that's it's. In my mind, it's got to be at least that. Otherwise, I just kind of discredit it. I'm like, just throw this in the garbage. I was like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah. Well, then, so to answer the dun 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 more crunchy guitar heaviest albums, bands, whatever, I'm gonna go with Corrosion of Conformity, Blind. Great example of that, because the guitar on that is heavy as fuck. When you listen to Vote with the Bullet, when the fucking album comes out, man, that thing rattles your thing. Like, it just is heavy as hell.
I don't know if I've ever even heard it, to be honest with you.
A lot of people.
I only know the first two albums. The first one I remember being a snooze fest. Not a snooze fest. I remember being Nothing There.
Oh, Slop Fest, Eye for an Eye.
Yeah,
the
I
punk album.
Nothing There, and then the second one's what, Animosity.
Mm-hmm. And that's like the breakaway point, because then Blind, then Technocracy, and then Blind is like when they didn't go like the. I hate stoner rock because it's not. It's more southern. It's so many places. I don't know what it is, but it's like it's beginning of like maybe kind of going there, but it's still just metal and it's heavy as fuck. Then what would be your crunchy guitar heavy as fuck?
Well, it's funny because if you want to go by just the back of a T-shirt, which I used to own, used to be a logo T-shirt by the band Devourment, and on the back it said "The fastest, the heaviest, the sickest." And I don't know about the fastest. I don't know about the heaviest. I mean, it was pretty heavy, but I don't know about the heaviest. But definitely not the fastest. I was like, you guys don't even. In fact, they actually kind of had a lot of slow parts, but that was the slogan on the back of the shirt. So I guess if you go by that, then just end the show there. They're both the fastest and the heaviest.
I'm definitely titling this episode that. That's a great title for this guy.
Yeah, it used to be a T-shirt that I used to have it, just outgrown it. You know what I mean? Because I had it when I was like a teenager. And well, as far as the heaviest for me, I mean, I always thought that.
Guitar chunky heavy, because there's different heavies I want to get into.
First one that comes to my mind, and I didn't even think about this for once. Like I didn't even know you're gonna bring that up. So it's not, I don't have it like.
That's
scripted.
fine.
The first thing that comes to my mind, like guitar crunchy heavy, that I always loved is Suffocation, Human Waste, particularly Human Waste.
Yeah.
I
guess it is like in that. I mean, it's okay. So since we all both have the guitar chunky heavy, let's bring in around another heavy that you maybe just think of, both with Devourment and Suffocation both being death metal bands, because Devourment, I was going to say if that was one of your choices, but clearly it wasn't. Weren't they more? They had the trash can drums, kind of.
Yeah, they're kind of trash can. Yeah.
We'll just call it.
When I say Devourment too, I mean honestly, all I know is Molesting Decapitated
with the naked fat dude.
And then there's the 138 disc, which the 1 stood for one new song. 3 stood for the 3 demo tracks, and the 8 stood for Molesting Decapitated was on there. They put a CD out called.
That's a cleverly half-assed as a motherfucker title.
I know. So the one new song, I remember when that came out, when that was a brand new disc. The song's called Baby Killer. So I know that. So I know Baby Killer, that, and honestly, I own a couple other LPs. Like I think I own the second album, but I don't really know them. When I think of Devourment, I think Molested and Decapitated, I think Baby Killer. So that's kind of what I'm saying. I think they just did a newer album with Relapse, which I don't think I listened to unless we got them. But if it's the newest one, but it's not that new because Hell's got them in. I didn't listen to it recently, but I listened to one probably about a year ago or so, and I think it was the newest one at the time. I'm like, who the hell is this? It doesn't sound. I was like, this just sounds like some modern, nothing there death metal. So it's like when I say Devourment, anybody watching, I'm referring to just Molested and Decapitated
well, because I was also going to say by saying Devourment and considering potentially that could be your crunchy heavy, but I think it goes down a little bit.
I don't think they're the heaviest band at all.
Well, because I think the trash can drums takes away from one of the other heavies that I'll mention, but I want to hear what was. So you said then I was. Let me elaborate on the Suffocation then. So then Suffocation doesn't have the trash can drums, then it is guttural vocals just like Devourment would be. So I guess there would definitely be, an all-embodied death metal album, probably with the chunky heavy guitar, but mostly with drummed, being trash can or whatever, but then more primarily vocals, where like I would think people would highlight, like had you had, say, or let's continue with the Corrosion Conformity example, they might think like the vocals on it still being more fundamentally a guy not singing, but not entirely yelling, isn't as heavy as growling.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, that's kind of what I always consider. Yeah, so whenever I think of the heaviest shit, I always consider it more so like death metal because for that reason, everything's down to the vocals, the bass, the everything, you know what I mean, generally speaking.
So what about then, it's back to the drums, because then I think that there's I'll just call it the rock band, heavy, where it's just like a great balance of everything. Celtic Frost is kind of a great example of that, like Morbid Tales, because it's just like really, boom, pa, boom, drums just right there. The bass is nice and complementary with that. You can hear it. It's nice and tight. Where then the guitar, it's trebly. That's what guitars are supposed to be. And then, voice, it's all just good, all-encompassing, heavy.
Yeah, no, and especially for its time. I mean, it definitely is. I mean, but I mean, like, my take is, I guess it depends on, like you said, how you define it too. Because like when I think of like,
I don't think time has anything to do with it.
No, but when I think of like the heaviest band of all time, a band that enters my mind is not something that our parents might like. You know what I mean?
Because
I don't think our parents would like Celtic Frost, but they certainly wouldn't. They would definitely prefer that over Suffocation.
And that's why, at least then, say Celtic Frost is more the rock band heavy because they stand a chance because like something like an early Rainbow record is heavy, and it's rock band heavy. It's a well balanced, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I would say that somebody has a better standing chance of like a Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales. That's more of a Rainbow fan.
It's just funny because that whole stuff, and I like the early Rainbow albums. Like Rainbow Rising is my favorite one, and it's just funny because you look at the '70s crowd and. You could definitely see it like watching, for example, like if you could see the crowd in it, like any Black Sabbath live shows, like on YouTube or whatever, live shows. If you could see the crowd, it's just funny. You could see and I'm talking in the '70s when the classic lineup, you could just see, which that was considered a relatively heavy band or a heavy metal band at the time, and so that was kind of like the forefront of extreme, bands like Sabbath, Priest,
of course,
AC/DC. Those are the extreme forefront bands at the time. And it's funny, but you look at the crowd and the people there, it just looks like
they're just kind of like, not even doing that, but almost like
they're all clapping.
Right. They don't know
like
what
people
to do.
like that I would never like. I don't know. This looks like kind of like your mom and dad there at a young age. Like it doesn't look like a metal
rowdy kids.
Yeah. It just looks,
even of their era.
It almost looks like a bunch of fucking hippies. You know what I mean? Like they don't like heavy music.
But even to the like they're not obviously doing this, but it's almost like those eras before there was like a headbang or something. Like they just didn't know what to do. They almost wanted to.
It's funny because even watching like Sabbath back then, almost even they kind of did. Like Ozzy's not headbanging or anything.
Right.
He's kind of just standing there. Yeah.
I think even somebody, or even himself or somebody ragged on, like, when you watch like early like Ozzy, it's just like, damn, man, his hands have to hurt after he's clapping so much. And and Geezer and them, they're just kind of just standing around. It reminds me of the Jim Gaffigan joke of where it's like when you see those old photos of people listening to the radio, they're just staring at the radio, probably thinking, "Oh God, I can't wait until somebody invents TV." That's like, it's kind of like I can't wait to like somebody's got to invent headbanging or something. Like I don't know what to do at these gigs because if you do like the California stage set or something. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
like that. It totally is. It's like there's no like. I mean, even a long hair of that time kind of just looked like a hippie. It like they
Pretty
just
much,
blended in. Like,
well, I mean, even just look at Sabbath and shit like that. It shows like the way Ozzy was dressed at that time. I mean, he didn't like really develop a kind of a cool metal looking image until he started the band Ozzy.
Yeah,
particularly Sabbath. Yeah, you kind of just look like a hippie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably even why long hair existed. Like, I guess
pretty much, and everybody thinks it's the most metal thing on earth, and it's like, just kind of a bunch of hippies. To be
probably
honest.
a bunch of hippies that weren't taking showers, and a haircut was definitely not in their vocabulary.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I cut my fucking hair. I grew it back. It was easier.
Yeah.
Don't have to go to the fucking get a haircut.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I know. Yeah. So, but I think that's where they kind of like stem from. But
yeah. Well, then there is then I think also. So okay, so let's get to another heavy. The more of I guess like a South American Brazilian heavy, because that's not like really crunchy heavy or anything.
That's almost like I never considered a lot of that stuff really heavy. It's a lot great like Sarcophago, Sepultura, because it's kind of like has an uptune like guitar. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. But I don't always think it's about bass,
yes,
right? You know,
I don't know. Like whenever I always consider like just heavy, like for me, like the two heaviest albums, whenever you're like, what's the most heavy shit you ever heard? Like if aliens came from outer space and said, what's the heaviest shit you got? I want to hear it. I never heard it before. I would, what my personally think is, because it's so down tune, is Mortician, House by the Cemetery. And it's particularly that one. They're all super low tune, but because it's super raw, that one too. Some people might even think it sounds like shit, but I think it sounds fantastic. In fact, it's so fucking down tuned, it almost gives me a headache sometimes listening to it. Like when in certain areas, the way it's echoey. And another, and I'll just pick any of their albums will suffice, but particularly House by the Cemetery. And also just to use another different band as an example, so to give the Alien two different bands, not the two discs by the same fucking band, is I would also say Incantation, Onward to Golgotha. Now those are just like you were saying, it's a different type. Like it's I think what the average person thinks is everything's just so down tuned and so low and just dark sounding too.
Yeah, but like there's a like. You know, for instance, I'm a guitar player. I've been playing a lot in standard tuning and finding like, wow, I kind of like this better sometimes because there's a different heaviness. Because it's like it's the range of notes, and they just seem, because it's just the standard, I guess, that it's easier to kind of chime into, you know, the scales and everything that, you know, it's like the alphabet, that if you're like to switch the alphabet and it starts at D, well, it throws off your perspective a little bit. It's harder to kind of comprehend the modes and all the things that, you know, run the language, essentially, that is music. So like it made me appreciate the E tuning that, like, I even think like, you know, you bring up Deicide a lot of stuff, so maybe not particular Deicide, but I know there's definitely classic death metal albums, maybe even Obituary, that is actually maybe not in standard tuning, but like, how I reiterate this, we're a half step down, so E flat is 1 fret lower.
Okay.
So a full step is 2 frets.
Okay.
So it's just 1 fret lower. That's not much. So, and that's, you know, nobody would have thought, hell, there might have been, if we had an audience here, people choosing Obituary as some of the heaviest stuff, if that is indeed true. The point is, like, it's still, I think, still heavy, devoid of having the tune down. No, because even Mortician, though, it's kind of, because with the fake drums, it's a little bit lacking in the depth. I think, like, I'm going to get shit for it, but Corrosion Conformity Blind, in a way, has more oomph and depth to it because of the real drums.
Is kind of like, that could be just like the catchiness and the hooks and the riffs.
Yeah,
that's not like that, but that's not like heavy just based on the, you know what I mean? That's, I think, just by the overall, like, when someone's talking about heavy, I think, in my mind, what I assume they're referring to, and that's why I decipher those two albums, is because the overall is just sound and the tuning of it.
Yeah.
Not so much the riffing. And
that's probably what I'm saying,
But the reason why I say, like, I'm sure there is stuff that people could recite that's even like more down tuned than that, but it's probably like some doom metal fucking bore fest. That's why I said I at the very beginning, I was like, I kind of don't count that, because I'm like, okay, great. If you're going to create something that's just, it's the most low tuned thing, but I was like, it's absolutely boring as fuck and no human being can like bang their head to. I'm like, what's the point? Because at the end of the day, all metal is supposed to be kind of have an energy to it, like more of a, like, it's metal in general. If you ask any person that doesn't even listen to it, they generally think of it as a faster music. So if you say, what's the heaviest metal album? And then you give them this boring ass fucking, just no fucking beat whatsoever garbage, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's just say at least like a Baphomet or something. It's got to have at least some type of upbeat if you're going to use an example. In my opinion, I'm not saying that's the correct answer. It's just
no, it is all.
But I guarantee there's somebody that's like, no, my buddy, he did this Doom demo and it's the heaviest things, as lowest. Okay, great, but he put it on as boring as a motherfucker.
Well, so that kind of gets me back to mentioning the Brazilian thing then, where that's a. Yeah, it's probably not. It's definitely not
Brazilian
supporting
thing,
a lot of this
actually,
heavy.
I think you're on to more something like I never considered
Brutality.
Actually some speed even.
Yeah.
Like,
well, but okay. Let me before you get to speed though. Let me go back to the Brutality and the heavy, and dissect their heavy, because a lot of that stuff's kind of really sloppy and amateur, which I think caters more to brutality than it does heaviness. But I think it also caters to a mindset, and that might also be heavy in its way as well. But I also think too, there's a lack of heaviness, because that is like you said, it's pretty much standard tuning. It might be, because they didn't know what the fuck they doing, that they tuned up even higher.
It just has that high fucking.
Well, they might. I never even tried to learn like Sepultura. Any guitar player out there might be like, everybody knew that, but like some of that stuff might actually be higher than standard tuning, because like bands do that. They tune up.
Because it has that sound, in my opinion. All those.
Where it's like almost on the wrong speed. Well, remember when we did records on the wrong speed? Those could have been an E that we made them higher.
When we put on like Benediction and it sounded Brazilian.
Yeah. That could have been an E, and then you speed it up. Yeah, it's an F.
So I never looked at them as like that. The Kings of Heavy. I thought they're more kings of like just rawness and just organic and just kids playing like just kind of like evil like music of its time, like Sarcophagus is fucking great, but it's kind of great for it. Like it's probably one of my favorite Brazilian records of all time, but it's kind of like so great for like just the whole time it came out and what was going on, at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of the charm it has, especially just that front cover with the guys on it is fucking awesome. Just like you think about '87, like what the fuck? Like,
does that play into the heaviness?
No. I never consider them to be an ultra heavy band. To be honest, from when I think of heavy bands, they don't cross my mind. I think of them for different. What I'm getting at is I think of them for different shit.
But if you really dissected it, you do agree that there's heavy, because if you labeled it a certain type of metal or metal in the first place, it's heavier than other genres of music.
Of course, I consider any type of death metal. Even black metal to an extent, heavy.
So if you had to put what would define Sarcophago as heavy as opposed to something else you would put in a conversation? Let's just say,
Testament?
I don't know. No, not another metal band. Something that wouldn't be metal. Like, why does that make then Sarcophago heavy and metal a subgenre of it? But let's just be the grandpas about it and say it's just heavy, all heavy metal.
Yeah,
like,
if you put it on
why is that different than Elvis? Why is it heavier than Elvis?
Well,
distorted guitar,
everything's the guitar and the playing, the riffs, like we were talking about the crunch.
Yeah.
Of course, it's gonna just the whole beats in general. It's gonna be just kind of like a fucking wall of heavy noise.
Yeah, well, you got to define heavy to talk about heavy, especially if defining is becoming hard.
The reason why I always refer to like, the Mortician, the Incantation, hell, even Carcass Reach Putrefaction is really heavy because it's got no triggers. It's very raw sound. Like I said, one of the heaviest records of all time is because like when I think people say heavy, I assume they're referring to just the sound. But if you're getting technical, I'm just saying I think that's what the general consensus, that's what people mean.
I'll get technical about the sound and not like get audio nerd about it and just go with performance. Look at what you just said. First I said Brazilian stuff was sloppy. I think nobody's going to disagree with that. And then, in which I think in a way takes away from the heaviness. I've always stood by that, but then you just said they don't use triggers. So you're highlighting, we're highlighting performance qualities. What's the hate about triggers? For one, well, it sounds fake. Well, why does it sound fake? Because it's perfect. Well, that's counterproductive. Maybe, but ultimately all leads back to performance. If performance is adding a quality, which clearly it is, then maybe that's adding to some heaviness. It would definitely support my rock band heavy
you listen
analogy.
You look at Reach Putrefaction, like the drums on there, they just sound like more thuddy.
Yeah.
Because without the triggers. I think it's the song, it kind of has almost like a drum solo when it first introduced the songs. I guess you want to call it a drum solo. It's like fucking 4 seconds or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's for the song Carbonized Eye Sockets. It's got that like before the song sticks in, and the drums just sound really thuddy and kind of like thicker, and I guess in the lack of better terms, heavy for that.
But you could argue that Heartwork's heavier because it has a better production and.
Yeah, but that's a kind of a. I mean, yeah.
I guess we are arguing that the.
Yeah. I mean, in a commercialized sense. I mean, but I mean,
that does. I mean, again, going back to, the sound of it, like if the production value.
I guess what I think of heavy too.
Not,
I just think of for whatever reason, I just think when I think of really really heavy. I think of down tune. I think of a kind of a dark sound. And whenever I think of like Recapitulation, time I play it, it kind of seems like it's almost like played in a fucking a dungeon, or you're in a dungeon. You know what I mean? Like it just seems darker and more primitive and medieval. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to come full circle with performance quality stuff too. There's nothing you don't even have to know about music. We all resonate when you're just in that pocket of just everybody's in line or just doing something together. That's when music sings and becomes something magical. And so I truly think that does have a lot to play into the heavy. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if it doesn't have these musical qualities, then what the hell is heavy? It's nothing.
Yeah, I can say that you'd have to define it like I said, but I mean, but I think a lot of people, they say, especially people that well, I'm assuming it's pretty much everybody since they're watching this, like heavier music.
I made it this far.
Yeah, but I assume that. So I think they get maybe offended thinking if you say it's not less heavy or whatever, that it makes it worse. That is just because it's not the heaviest thing. That doesn't mean it's bad or good. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to define it. I mean, really, if you truly at least if you use the sarcophago to Elvis or whatever the fuck I said analogy of what makes this exist to be a metal band then in a totally different genre just against something that's not, whether you like it or not, Well, then obviously something sonically determined heavy that to a point when you're throwing Morticians against sarcophago in the genre itself, it gets to a convoluted point that people get confused to what the heaviness is.
Kind of stems from a childhood too, because I remember when I was listening to Morticians, shit like that, and going to shows and talking to guys who I met, a lot of the older guys at shows, talking to them, and they're kind of they didn't poo-poo Mortician. They're kind of oh yeah, the demo was good, stuff like that. You want to hear the heaviest band of all time. As before I heard them, it's a band from Pittsburgh called Rotrevor, and
pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking heavy. Exactly. But they're more in the category of the Morticians, of the Carcass, of the Incantation. They're more of that.
Yes.
So
and the darker, like you said.
Exactly. So everybody that I talked to that was much older than me, that was into metal for much longer than me, they considered Rotrevor the king of. It wasn't one or two person that said this. I've heard at least half a dozen for sure. I can think of. I'm not going to mention them on the show because it's fucking people ain't gonna know who they are. Well, they might know who some of them are, but that was what they all said, and so that kind of since that was coming from I guess in a lack of a better term, older metalheads or the authority of metal, if you want to, for a lack of a better term, I don't know if they're authority, but been into it longer than I was at the time when I was 15 or whatever. You kind of think, okay, well, this is the defining.
Yeah,
so,
and
so
that
this is the definition of heavy. This is how you define heavy. So that was always in my mind too at a very early age.
But it is dark. It is a dark heavy. It is the COC example.
So that's kind of
that's just crunchy. Yeah. Where that darkness does. I agree though.
So that's kind of why maybe that's why I refer to heavy and think of heavy when I said that I want to go golf and stuff because that kind of stuff is that was always that's what was taught to me by your fucking peers or your elders or whatever you want to say, that this is what's heavy. You want to listen to fast. This is what's fast. Et cetera, et cetera. You want to listen to evil block model. This is what, you know what I mean?
But it almost sounds like we would agree then from this conversation that there is a difference of heavy, because there could be a darker heavy, but it doesn't make it any heavier per se, but it might seemingly so because of depth is what makes heavy in the first place. Then a dark message might add to
example,
it.
I listen to
or a dark sound anyway.
If I listen to somebody who's an example like Rigor Mortis, who I love, I don't consider that a heavy band. I don't think of it as a heavy band. I'm not saying they're not. I just don't listen to them for that reason.
It's a different type of heavy.
Yeah,
because it would still be
and
metal.
I'm not saying they
heavier
are.
Than
I'm not
Elvis.
saying they're not. I just don't think of them.
Yeah.
But
there are things like
an alien or the young buck, the 12-year-old trying to get in this, or the 15-year-old, but I want to get into really heavy shit. And that was his defiant. If that's what he said, I want to hear the heaviest shit. I wouldn't give him Rigor Mortis. And I'm not saying that's a bad example. If someone did, that just for me, that's not what would come to my. I'd be like, okay, heaviest shit. I would think the Rochefort, Mortician, Incantation.
Have you not had conversations too with and not DBs that aren't warranted to speak about the matter in the first place? Like people that actually listen to music and appreciate it, describe stuff like it, and that's a heavy record that you're just kind of like, really, that record? I mean, I can't have examples, but I know there's been ones where. I don't even want to bring them up. But
Well, I mean, King Diamond does that all the time. He thinks, you know.
And to agree, I think to a degree, though, some of the classic rock that he would bring up is heavier than...
No, he talks about, when he talks about Merciful Fate shit, like, this next one's going to be a real heavy record. I'm like,
okay, great. Then that's a great example of, like,
and he
Come to the Sabbath is a pretty heavy
a lot
riff.
Of stuff, you see a lot of his stuff that he signs, his signature, he likes to stay heavy.
Yeah.
So I never considered Merciful Fate and King Diamond, that's like possibly my favorite band, or definitely one of my favorite bands. I never listened to them for heaviness though, but King thinks it's heavy. So,
but it is. It's rock band heavy, dude.
I got what he meant. I wasn't like, this guy's a fucking idiot. He's never heard no Incantation.
Would you say though rock band heavy? Like, does that analogy make sense?
Yeah, and especially for him, because what does he like? He likes like Deep Purple and shit like that. And in comparison, it is heavier than that.
Yeah, and that's very much kind of what they're mimicking. They're taking it to the next level.
Yeah,
you know, as
so I got what he meant. I got
what
what he meant. I was like, this geezer doesn't know the fucking real heavy shit. I didn't think that. I just
he's never heard Pantera.
But yeah, exactly. But like when I'm saying like with the 15-year-old trying to get him, he's like, yeah, give me the heavy shit. If those were his words, I want to hear heavy. If he emphasized that, I wouldn't give him Merciful Fate. That wouldn't cross my mind. Now if he said, I want to fucking I want to lessen the metal. Like, yeah, teach me the roots. Start me from where it came from. Yeah, I'd be giving him Merciful Fate.
The bloody roots, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I want to hear the roots, where it came from. I'd be giving him Venom and Merciful Fate and Slayer and shit like that. I mean, exactly.
Well, then fucking another one that's always funny, which the fastest band. I want to deliver on our promises of everything we said we'd at least, and those are the two. So the fastest band. That one's funny too. It's because it's just like the heavy, where it's like you hear people
like I was saying with the fastest
so
band,
fast.
I've always kind of like wanted to kind of almost have this conversation, even though just kind of briefly
doing it now.
So like I said, with the heaviest bands, I've always kind of had examples in my mind, which the two I gave you. Those kind of just were in my mind, in my opinion. But fastest, like I don't really have a direct example, because the reason being, I'm like, well, when you say fastest, is like, for example, is it like for
who's
example,
defining the speed?
Yeah,
the
drummer. We talk about exactly. Is the drummer just all blast beats? It's like, so something like Christian on the list.
Because great analogy. Because as a non-guitar player, and maybe you've already thought about this, to anybody that's not, like, a drummer could be, like, you could have a riff that's just.
Yeah, it's not that exactly, because there's a lot of death metal like that. But I mean, like a really fast band that came on my mind. Not every single song, but a lot of them. Just an overall fast band. The really early stuff by Cryptic Slaughter. It's like crazy fast.
Well, fuck, dude, rigor mortis. Then I mean, if you were just look at Mike Scotch's guitar playing alone, I mean that's fucking lightning fast.
So I always thought, because I mean, like, it's even the definition. Yes, Slayer's fast. You know what I mean?
We don't want the conversation to be boring though. So, but yeah.
No, but I'm saying, but people refer to them. I'm like, even the D-bags bring them up. I'm like, yeah, I can't deny it. They are a fast band. But I'm like. But do I consider like some of these death metal bands that have all blast beats beginning to end faster? I'm like, I can't think of an example where, like, because like Christian, like the drumming's really fast, but the guitar picking and stuff with it is not.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I mean, they're fast, but just the drumming really.
And it can be vice versa.
So I'm trying to think of a band who blasts beginning to end, and has like really fast guitar, crazy, and like really fast vocals too. Like, for example, if you hear like, again, not all, but a lot of Cannibal Corpse songs. Specifically Corpse Grinder, and actually ironically enough, even the first Cannibal Corpse album, Eating It Back to Life, the vocals are retarded fast on some of the songs.
Yeah,
like you're hard to follow. Like,
I
challenge you to follow some of those Corpse Grinder songs. Find one where he's just thinking like I was like, how the fuck does he even like remember this to say it when he does it live? They do some of the songs live. I mean, I'm not talking like, obviously they have slower songs like Evisceration, Plague, and Make Them Suffer and shit like that. That it's way more understandable. He's got some where it's really hard to fucking follow. I'm trying to think
that's a great example, because
Cryptic Slaughter is real fast.
Well, Cryptic Slaughter
I don't always consider Cryptic Slaughter does the same. So I don't consider like Cannibal in my mind. I don't consider them like one of the fastest bands. That doesn't. No, I was like, I don't know, that Corpse Grinder, some of those fucking lyrical too. I mean, it's like a mile a minute.
But when you say that, when there's like a mouthful vocal delivery. Like Carnivore, if you think about it, like there's a lot of words being said that actually helps make it faster, because you resonate with that more. Like drums and voice are probably going to be the first focal point of what is going to elude speed. I mean, because they're basically
like a great example, but I never like for me, whenever I listen to Carnivore, I never got like an earful to like if you try to follow lyrics. Give a perfect.
Nobody says a lot, you know.
No, a perfect example. That's something that's
very
just thought of it
manner.
Is for Cannibal. It's like look up the song "Disposal of the Body" off Gallery of Suicide. It's just hilarious. Like I know a lot of the words, but it's just hard to follow with the, you know what I mean? And he's saying them. It's just because it's so delivered so fast the way he's singing them.
Yeah, exactly. And there's I don't know. Well, so go back to the guitar playing thing. So let's bring up two obvious heavy or fast records that I guess are metal, but they would be more grindcore-ish. Would be World Downfall and Repulsion Horrified.
Yeah.
Now, when you actually compare the two records, Repulsion, I'm trying to play the record in my head, is more
faster.
of like even trying to mimic the speed of the song with crazy riffs that just kind of
Well, because honestly, I never really thought
you know?
about it, but you read like, I think it might be in that double disc or whatever, and then there's some notes about maybe Scott Carlson in it, or maybe I read it somewhere else, but I mean, like, you can hear it like one of their big influences. They did covers of songs in their early years, as it was Slayer. You can hear when you go back and you notice how influenced they were by Slayer, even though Horrify is like a real grindcore album, and some of the riffing and the speed, you could hear this Slayer influence. So they have that. I suppose the Terrorizer doesn't have that as much in their riffing and stuff, as opposed to, but the drumming is fucking.
Yeah, but
bayonet.
Repulsion also has more like nonsense, just fast as fuck, like
Guitar solos?
Like it's almost like just even riffs, like they're almost like the epitome of like what anybody would do that could fret a chord, just go like slide crazy fast, like it would take 2 seconds.
It's funny you bring that up.
I'm not trying to diminish it either.
I always did consider Repulsion a fast band. I always did. But it's funny is like I guess that I would kind of consider that maybe one of the fastest records of all time.
Well, because then like if you compare it against then World Downfall, like there are a little more structured riffs. Like he does, there are like fast, crazy ones, but like, there are ones that just do have like a, doom, 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 like that, like when they start out and like that riff keeps going, even though the drums then speed up and start blasting over that same riff that's just basically still keeping like a punk beat. It's, because the drummer really needs to define it because there's so many beats per measure that you could do to the same slow ass thing. That now you're just adding that many beats to
no,
something
I think
that
as a
still
whole,
has the
I
same
honestly
time
I never
signature.
thought about it, but like, 'cause, yeah, you consider just World Downfall just for the blast and the drums are crazy, but as a whole, as far as speed of the record, I think I consider Horrified definitely a faster record. Now that I'm thinking about it, I never thought about
I'd
this
agree, and I would agree because I think because of the chaos, he's got more mouthful of lyrics. And because isn't there like shit that he's almost not even like finishing words?
Yeah, it's kind of like Cannibal. Yeah, it's mild. Yeah. It's hard. That's another example, kind of like I was saying, the Cannibal. It's harder to follow.
We're like, yeah,
you gotta kind of like memorize the lyrics first, then follow.
Well, because even Terrorizer though, he's more like whoa, 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 whoa. Like there's not really too many Terrorizer. We're just like
trying to think. Yeah, and
like, and I mean, Repulsion isn't either, but there is like hardcore stuff though that is like it's just a whole fucking mouthful. You're just like, did you get all that? And it's like that to me that adds a lot of speed because it's like it's the human voice.
I always thought that for the vocal delivery that adds speed.
Yeah. So
Because
what's the well, fuck then. So we don't make it. Let's make a fastest thrash band. I'm gonna put. I don't know if they're the fastest, but they're one to definitely bring up instead of Slayer, Razor. Because, dude, like, Violent Restitution Hour, there's some fast stuff.
Razor. What about Sadist?
Oh, yeah. Well, early.
Well,
oh, my God, yeah.
I don't like the first
That should have been my go-to, honestly. That is.
When I heard, what's the second album, Swollen Black, I believe?
Honestly, dude, I think I'll just stop it right there. And if I did have to say what is the fastest thrash band, I would say that.
Yeah. That's what always comes to my mind when I think it's thrash, yeah.
I mean, there's no Sadist Attack. I mean, that's so fucking...
Violent Restitution is fast.
Oh, yeah.
It is, but I mean, I think Sadist would
have a little more... It's more tamed, speed where like Sadist is just more barbaric, chaotic. Chaos. Yeah.
No, that's what. As far as chaotic thrash albums, I think I've always said Sadist was my favorite one.
Speaking of Sadist, so
that's why
we got to go back to
Heavy.
Heavy.
Swallowed in Black is so disappointing because he is so tame. I remember when I heard that because actually the first thing I ever heard was the Death to Posers demo. And then I heard an accent, not because I'm Mr. Goldberg, that just because there was a disc called that, and I got it. It was on a CD, and then I got the first album, and then actually I thought for a while there I didn't even know they had any other stuff because the stuff was out of the time when I got it. They were out of print and stuff. Yeah. And then I did hear Swollen in Black. I'm like, this is fucking lame.
Yeah. Oh my God. Because dude, you listen to Certain Death and that's just
that's what I'm saying.
Like, dude, just refer to that song. If it's not on par with that, I'm disappointed.
What is Swallow in Black following is basically like South of Heaven following Rain of Blood, where you're just you listen to South of Heaven, and you're just like, this is fucking boring.
Yeah, or the DB following Bloody Roots with Rain and Blood, like I could be impressed.
No, but that's just Bloody Roots just sucks.
just-
I mean, like I don't think South of Heaven sucks. It's just,
No,
it's just super tame in comparison.
I just had to
like,
throw it a fucking funny.
But
lean.
that's the way Sadist was on their second. You know what I mean? That's the best comparison I can use it for. At least in my opinion, that's what I always thought.
What would be the fastest death metal record then?
Yeah, I don't know.
Tish?
What would I consider? Yeah, because but I don't know. Like,
But did they get an unfair advantage then?
Because
When you
it's
did
just blast. Yeah, because
with drum machine.
yeah.
Well, and then again, triggers could help, but I don't know. Triggers are a different animal. I don't know. What the fuck would be the fastest death metal? Man, I think I should know this right out the gate. All right, well, let's go back to heavy for a second, because we mentioned Sadist, so Steve DiGiorgio, so there's an obvious one that we didn't get in there. Bass heavy. Well, because depth is everything. So, dude, Sever Survival,
yeah.
heavy fucking record. And
It's
ugly
funny
and
we were
dark.
talking about. I was going to say that one
In
too.
a non-New York death metal immolation dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The reason I kind of did
Hell, and a non-crunchy guitar,
I was going to
too.
bring up Autopsy, the Sever Survival, because I do consider that up there. But I just didn't want to bring it up because everybody like, what about like Metal Funeral? So he goes, again, like too doomy and snoozy. Like it's got to be.
But it does have that nasty bass. It's not the guitar that makes it really heavy. The guitars were actually really thin and trebly. It's just that nasty fucking.
It's got that rawness too, like I said before.
Yeah, the bass on Steve DiGiorgio's bass. That's his finest hour. He'd probably hate it, but it's his finest.
Do you hate it?
I don't know. Well, he's just way more accomplished than that. I don't know. Maybe he loves it, but I just think his bass just sounds so fucking disgusting. It's awesome.
No, I think that's one of the greatest. I think it's one of the greatest death metal albums ever.
Shit, man. I would put even in like early artillery. There's just like that bass, nasty demo quality bottom. That makes them heavy as fuck.
Are you talking about the demos, or just the first album, or?
Well, in comparison, the demos. Yes, because they're heavier than the first album, even though they're the same songs.
Yeah.
Because they have that bass-heavy, disgusting 80s demo sound. And that is like a lost art by the time it hits the album. Like, they're just like, oh, let's throw that. Yeah. Like, dude, I would love to do an album that, like, just wants to sound like a disgusting 80s demo. Like, truly. Like, no guitar player gets mad that the bass is really heavy.
I've been saying that for years. Like, even like death metal, for that, I wish bands would. Like, do a whole album. Like, for example, like we're talking about brought up many times, like Putrefaction, Painful Death. I was like, guys, like, stop putting out this fucking blood incantation sound like this and little technical riffs.
Yeah, get the elephant in the room.
Do an album that sounds like that, raw like that, vocals like that. Do an album
that's
that sounds
heavy
like
as
that.
fuck because of the vocals.
Yeah.
Putrefaction, because that's not that thick of a guitar either.
Yeah,
though.
I've always considered vocals a big part. That's why the Mortician, the incantation were on there. It's because those vocals are so low and heavy. That's why I put those, because vocals and the whole atmosphere. You know what I mean? That's why, because I do consider vocals to be a part of it.
Fuck, man, I can't think of a damn fastest death metal record.
Not the fastest. Yeah, I don't know.
But I can't even like think of like a contender. Just drawing a damn blank. Like who? Like
yeah, because when I think of the Brazilian style, it's just basically drums, like all those like Abhorrence.
Well,
like,
even the Swedish stuff.
Like all the.
All right, we'll go to Sweden then. What classic?
They don't
Swedish?
really have any
that fast, right?
I mean, when you got more extreme, you got bands like Deranged and stuff. I mean, Rated X is pretty fast.
What about Disgorge? Like Mexican Destroyer? Like that's.
Yeah, but it's kind of more. I consider that just more the brutal stuff. I never consider them
fast.
They got blast and shit. It's definitely. I mean, if you put that
fast.
If you put Disgorge, like Forensic next to fucking Autopsy, Metal Funeral, speed wise, it sends it home on a fucking stretcher, of course. But I never considered that like. Oh, I guess that record is kind of fast, Forensic.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like Devourment and stuff like. But I guess
Devourment's they got way more slow parts. It's funny when they put out a show. I'm like, you guys aren't even a fast band. You don't even have that many blast parts.
All right, well then let me just so then Devourment, the brutal death metal era. I think reason why I couldn't think of an example, typewriter tough guy that gave me shit, is because I was thinking old school death metal. When you think old school death metal, it isn't always as fast. It's where it's like I think it's the brutal stuff.
It just popped in my mind right now that I consider pretty fast, especially vocal delivery. What I was saying is hopefully we're doing LPs, but never got the confirmation on that. But guys, need content. So if you guys watch this, is Gorgasm.
Yeah,
from Chicago. They got the blasting drums, and he's got those barking.
I don't remember at all.
Yeah, you'd hate it. But they have their first EP, Stab Wound Orgasm, which is my favorite, and then their first full length Bleeding Profusely. I want to do them both on LPs.
Orgasm?
Yeah, they're pretty fast. They're pretty fast, but they're of that late '90s, early 2000s brutal.
Who put out their original? Was it Unique Leader, like one of those bands?
It's of that fan base, but not Unique Leader. And dude, the first
United Guttural is the other big label of that.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think who did Stab Wound. And of course, I can't remember who put that out. And the album, what the fuck I just said it, Bleeding Profusely.
Who's the brutal death metal band, Random Thought, that has the Mr. Rogers intro, by the way?
Oh, that's Eternal Suffering. Good band too, but nowhere near Speed. Or
I just put on music that says I'm angry.
That's
I'm
good.
really angry or something. That's Eternal.
Eternal, not internal. Eternal Suffering.
Eternal Suffering.
That's a good album.
I always thought that was like Skinless for some reason.
No, at first, you know what? The first Skinless album too. I fucking love that record.
Isn't that really fast?
No,
like
no. It's really catchy. It's really bouncy. Huh. You'd consider it kind of Homeboy.
Really?
No, not Homeboy, but
my mental Skinless.
I think
playback is not.
I mean, like, if you want a really, really catchy death metal song that's easy to get into, in my opinion, is put on there. It's called Tampon Lollipops. That's the.
It sounds like you got some of your lingo from this.
Oh no! I don't know.
Tampon Boys.
Oh, I never thought about. But that's a great song.
Do they have
Tampon
a Young Bucks?
Yeah, no. The first Skinless album. I would love Hells to do that on vinyl too. It's never been on vinyl. It's easy the ideas in my head going on, but everybody in the scene fucking sucks and they can't reply back. And there's labels that own shit and they don't get permission.
Oh, I know, dude.
People don't reply to emails. But so the fans, if you know Skinless and Gorgasm, tell them to contact J Dog and Hells wants to put on LPs. Get it out in no time. Well, depends on how fast I get shit, but that's stuff I really want to do. But yeah, first Skinless. Progression Towards Evil, great fucking album. The second album's good too, and everything after that sucks shit.
Fastest heavy metal record.
Painkiller's pretty fast.
Yeah.
For a heavy metal record.
Yeah.
Painkiller, that's pretty fast.
Does that become power metal though?
It's kind of on the verge, but
I was going to say, like,
since it's Priest, it's kind of like they're automatically just heavy metal. So
I was going to say, like, Halloween or Blind Guardian, but, like, that'd be fast power metal then.
Yeah, it's Halloween, Walls of Jericho. That's one of my favorite.
You still haven't probably done it, but the first... I might have an extra copy. You're going home with it.
Oh, what's that?
Battalions of Fear, the first Blind Guardian album. Like, you love early Halloween. And I keep saying, like...
I love Walls of Jericho and the 12-inch EP before.
Well, right. And so that's what I'm saying. Is like, if you listen to the first Blind Guardian... I mean, granted, you could probably go through the whole catalog and you probably enjoy it, but it just gets Dungeons and Dragons-y. I mean, it doesn't get slower, but like the first album's like it's.
You know what? I mean, even like
even
other Halloween albums. I'll be honest with you, I'll give them some.
I got shit for saying that Pink Bubbles Go Ape wasn't good in a video.
Okay, great. Because
this guy's on crack.
Because old guy J Dog, he's getting old his old years. He's kind of like getting a little more tame, like getting a little easier on guys. Hell, some of the later Halloweens, maybe I'd like them now. But to their defense, I don't know if I've ever. Yeah, Halloween, yeah. But I mean, I heard a later one like 20 years ago, and I was just like, I don't really like it. It's kind of power metal-y. That was the extent of it, so I don't really know it. As a matter of fact, the album after, what is it, The Keeper of the Gates? There's part 1, part 2.
Keeper of the Seven Keys.
Oh, whatever. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I don't know those albums. Maybe I'd like them, but I just know they're more power metal-y, and it's not really... I'm kind of like,
but the first album is pure power metal, but it's just more of that speed metal before everybody figured it out.
Yeah, but I mean, power metal, like, it's kind of like you're saying, it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, and they switched the singer. I knew that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Kai Hansen from Halloween is on he does some early guest spots, like guitar and vocals on some Blind Guardian.
Yeah, so I might like it. But like I said, I'm saying, so I might like the Blind Guardian. But I mean, like, what I'm saying is, like, some of the other Halloweens, me getting older now. If I put them on now, I might even like those now. Hell, I probably should check them out.
Which, by the way, like when you think about the Dungeons and Dragons shit, why is that bad? Like that's like an awesome thing.
No, I never
really
thought it was bad.
It.
I just to me.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm like,
it automatically came off as just cheesy to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like when you threw elves and shit. Like, I just think Willow. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Willow. It's a great movie.
I've had so much death metal in my diet over the last fucking 20 years.
It's just not.
It's almost kind of like I don't know. Give me some fucking Willow. I like Willow. That's a good movie.
Yeah, I know. And that's kind of why I'm even some of the that's why I was invited the rest of the Blind Guardian catalog in there because it's like I don't know. They're fucking singing about Lord of the Rings and shit. Like still metal. Some of it's heavy. Some of it's really fast.
Yeah.
You know, it's got choirs and crap. But like I don't know. It's very well executed music.
Yeah. I think me getting older, I think some of it I would enjoy. Now there's some of it I probably be like, this is a little fucking ridiculous. I'm sure there's. I'm
not
sure
at the opera. That's where I stopped.
But I'm sure there's some of it I would probably enjoy at this point.
Yeah.
I just have to check because I mean I still like I don't know, man. I guess I'm just the biggest creature of habit because anytime I'm really checking it out, I was like, if it don't look death metal, I'm not interested. But sometimes I check shit out. That's just like I had said, I had to force myself to listen to Amon Amarth. And I was like, oh, this is actually not bad.
Yeah,
because I usually don't check shit out like that. I was like, it's either fucking death metal or go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless it's something like
Well,
say it is a heavy metal or black metal, somebody knows me, like, hey,
your
check this
comfort
out.
zone.
Like for example, like reason I checked out Attic is somebody's like, yeah, he's like, this sounds like you'll like it. You'll probably like it. And
you'll love it, bro.
And I did. I loved it. You know what I mean? But generally speaking,
have you had anybody ever do that? Oh, dude, it sounds just like Fate. You'll love it, brah.
no, the only thing he did that for the Sodomizer. The post, I guess.
Oh, that's literally the guy. I'm talking about the people. Somebody else.
Sodomizer.
So,
I was like, oh, I haven't heard of it. Yeah, you're gonna love it, brah.
Since we fully answered the question and we came around to a bra, you told me recently when we went to a haunted house or something that a lot of people put on HH orders and special instructions just certain Hellcast lines, or leanings or things that you would get because they know that. So, like, what are some highlights that stick out?
You know what's funny? It was either today, yesterday. Might have been today, but this week, and just in the comments, Bob. Now they could have just been just saying it, but it's just been a while. But I don't know if they meant because that's all they said.
Right?
Maybe literally meant been a while since I placed an order.
So right.
But that's all I said. So I took it as been a while.
That was a special instruction on an order,
just in the notes, yeah.
But what were some of the other ones that you've gotten?
Oh, like thanks, J-Dog. It's.
I thought you had more like Hellcast. Bras.
There's bras are in there.
Wasn't there one about the cowboy hats? Make sure you don't put I ordered some death metal without cowboy hats.
Somebody did make the cowboy hat comment. I can't remember if that was in notes or an email. Yeah, but somebody did say the cowboy hat shit. I forget I forget what that was, but somebody did know what I was talking about. That was just. It's funny because a lot of the shit I say is like. It's not like something I brewed up or something.
No, I know. That's why it's so funny. It's like,
but it's like some people probably think like I like recite.
I don't call anybody.
I just make this shit up. I don't either know.
But I don't even like walk around my everyday even talking like that. It just kind of comes about. I remember honestly in the early Eddie days where we were just ragging on people and it was just like, he's like the people that say brah. I'm like. Yeah,
that's kind of where I start with the chicks. It's just funny. Well, we were saying it like
this is so stupid. How do you get like bra or bro?
Even with like chase stuff. I implement in emails because it's always like that. Like with the email, like it's on the way, bro, or whatever. So now I just put the chicks. That's kind of like the lingo they do, and it's me. I'm saying it like. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastically, because it's funny.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not my normal lingo, no.
But they might be reading on the other.
No, they're reading on the other lingo.
Fuck you, dick. It's just like you don't care.
They're reading like, fuck yeah, bro. Oh yeah.
Okay, but you could be kind of like because you're almost like making light of the situation. Like it's on its way, brah. So it's like it's been lost for 3 months, motherfucker.
And I've done that. Yeah, because that's always the replies we would get. Like especially like in the early days of Hells when he was kind of like back when fucking like. Dude, it's just funny how shit just changes. Things are just more permanent. Back in the day, if it got lost, it's tough shit. Like, or like this. I need my tracking.
Well, you weren't exactly saying tough shit. It's just kind of like, well, what do you do?
I know. But I'm saying that's why today's society is like really spoiled because like back then, like if you don't have a tracking number now, some of these people are pissed. And it's funny because like back in the day, like say you did a trade with somebody or whatever. Like, hey man, where's my fucking $1,000 of merchandise? It's on its way, brah. Like you'd get that from. It's like you just took their word for it.
Yeah, and that's
like, all right, I guess I'll wait 6 weeks.
It was always a bittersweet.
That's just the way it was. So that's kind of like when I get this guy in fumes because he doesn't have his tracking number the day up. I'm like, dude, come on, man.
This guy's been waiting 3 months and on its way, brah, was good enough.
Back in the day, dude, you didn't Dude,
it just left the building. What are you going to track?
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna disappoint yourself. Shit, dude, I fucking did that though because I was leaving the house today and nobody's gonna be home, and sometimes I'll put packages on the front, and not that anybody steals it, but I didn't know if it was gonna rain, and so I tracked it. And it's just like, this is why you don't track it right away. Because it's very disappointing. It's been days. It just says label created. They didn't even fucking put it to the USPS yet.
Well, a lot of it, that's what I'm saying.
And it's just like, fuck, man, I'm on my game. Because immediately it goes like, I don't print a fucking label and it sits there for days.
No, I think the idea, no, wrong. It's cool that even when I buy something too, it is cool to have but I mean, I guess.
But doesn't that piss you off? Because you don't print a fucking label at Hell's and then it sits in a corner. You know what I mean? You don't package somebody's order, print a label, then it notifies the customer, and then it sits there so they got time to go to the post office.
It goes in a mail bin, and then the post office generally comes around 6 p.m. and picks it up.
But if they didn't, you would do what Reap Dog does. Get his ass in the fucking car and drive it up to the post office like I do.
Yeah, well, that's what I used to do back in the day. I used to do that.
but I'm saying these guys, they don't. They lit a big ass batch. Then they go to the post office at the end of the week. That's no good when I'm getting your package shipped, and then I'm wondering if it's going to rain today, and I track it. It's been sitting there for 3 days. It should have been well on its way, homeboy.
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. He was just convenient where, his mail trip's going to come later in the week. Like, well, then don't print the labels. Like, it's just a bad workflow.
Yeah.
Pissed me off with the process.
I remember, but I'm talking about even myself before, like, Hells and, like, ordering back in the day from Iron Pegasus, Metal Blade Germany, Nuclear Blast, like that. It was literally, dude, it's on its way, brah.
Oh, it was even more than that, though.
You didn't even get a tracking number. You didn't get nothing.
But, dude,
you just, all right.
But never mind even the international guys, which, yeah, sometimes it comes back and smells like seafood and shit. Like, where was this?
I never had seafood.
Well, surface mail, like, it would just be on a boat. It'd be wet.
The boat, yeah,
it'd smell like seafood. It'd be wrapped in a clam sack.
They don't even know. The 15-year-olds, they don't even know what that is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So now, forget all that international jargon that they don't comprehend. Let's just go to the United States. Mail order. Dude, you had to put alternatives on there. So you didn't even know what the fuck you were mailing for because you didn't know if you would even get what you were just hoping, like, oh my god, I hope they had the new Death Sultry album, but then you got Swallow the Snake
I didn't
instead.
have to do too much of that.
It happens.
Usually I know, but when I was ordering, I was a little bit more at the, I guess, modernization at the time.
Yeah.
To where you didn't.
You called them, right?
Yeah, you either called them or you emailed them. Like, Iron Pegasus email. So, like,
but the guy, there are guys that listen to the show that know exactly what I'm talking about.
The guys from the that are older than us, that are in their 40s and stuff, that were mailing in. Yeah, like you literally snail mail. Here's my list. Here it totals to $40. Here's my $40. Yeah, you had to put alternatives.
Yeah.
So it's like you might not even get what the fuck you ordered. You might get your. So that's a little bit before my time. I've had to do that a couple times with like more underground type shit. But I mean, I think I did that with Earache. For whatever reason, when Earache was taking orders, they were really primitive still.
Well, even Central Media, remember they would put those little catalog pull-up things in your
and
CD?
I did do it with them. You're right. No, I did do it with them.
Did you like mail it in?
Yeah, you had their printout. Exactly, yeah.
Which you could buy that CD now, and it could still have that, and you could mail it in, and you could be in 2020.
Right. I did do it with them. So I did with them too. So Earache, Central Media. There's a couple. So I have done that, but nowhere near to the extent of some of the old guys a little older than us.
That's funny.
That was kind of getting phased out already.
How many old albums? Let's just say a Central Media one, so they would probably just be wrapped or some nerd hung on to the flag. Because it had nothing to do with the album. It was the same thing that they just printed out a form. And they just updated it.
Yeah, correct.
So obviously there's copies of Iced Earth or Nevermore or something that's on Central Media, Grave, that still has those that are unwrapped from back in the day that if somebody got now or like on Discogs or something, like was just, I don't know, under a rock. And thought that address, like in mailed order, like, they're sitting there in 2020
anyone that would think that they could be generally very young, and they don't even do that. They'd be oblivious to that method. Hell, I don't even know if they even know what stamps are these days.
There's some pretty dumb people in the world, though, so I'm going with it's happened more often than
you think, yeah.
Yeah.
It just gets returned.
Because, dude, I remember getting a Hell's email back in the day when I was doing the customer service. Some guy be like, you never got back about my Savat Evoke LP. It's like, what's the problem? It's damaged. All right, what's your order number? I don't know.
It's like 6 years old.
And then I looked up 8 years old. And it's just like, what the fuck you want me to do? 8 years? Like, Savat Evoke, I'm thinking, like, what do you mean talking about LP? At that point, it didn't even exist.
It's funny
it existed, but it didn't. It was so out of press.
That was the worst one ever, but I got an email.
It was the dumbest one.
I got an email, I think it was 2020 this year, maybe it was 2019, but recently it was very similar to that, where the guy was asking me, like, hey, like, would you be able to, like, replace this? This record's warped or whatever, and it was years old. And I'm like, dude, how do I even know you got it from here?
Right.
How do I know you didn't drop it? How do I know you put it, like...
It sat out in the sun.
You listened to it 500 times and it just warped the shit. Like...
Right.
No.
Years.
I couldn't even find his order shit when I finally kind of figured it out because it took so much digging.
This is the date range you didn't set.
Yeah, I'm like...
8 years
I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. And I kind of told him politely no, and then... After that, he kind of...
you're the biggest dick.
Got to the point where I just started ignoring him, and then he started getting... I'm like, dude,
You're irrational.
I can't believe you have the audacity to even ask that. Like, that's such a dumb question. That doesn't even deserve a reply.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, that's not even, like, trying to appreciate the fan base
that's just,
and
you're
your
just an idiot at that point.
Yeah,
you're
that's just pure idiocy. Yes. Well, shit, I want to know what you feel there, dear audience. What is the fastest record?
I definitely do want to know, yeah.
Dude, I do.
So, yeah, what's the fastest record?
I want to find out genres. Fastest heavy metal record, and keep in context.
What about black metal? We didn't talk about that. Because there's a lot of...
What's the fastest black metal record?
I don't know. Again, I guess that's such a lame answer.
That's why we didn't talk about it.
No, but I'll throw one out there I do consider really fucking speedy is Impiety, Skull fucking Armageddon.
What about, like, Dark Funeral stuff?
Yeah, but again, that has a type where it's just kind of like all blasts, as opposed to Skull fucking Armageddon.
It's kind of more than just the tempo at that point. It almost loses speed, even though it's still.
I mean, of course, yeah. I mean,
the monotony of it almost just kind of really takes away speed sometimes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I like especially the third album by Dark Funeral, which is my favorite, my personal fave, the Diabolus Interium. It's got, I mean, it is, but I mean, it's mostly just the blast though. I mean, I love early in the first like 5, 6 Enthroned albums. Those are a shitload of blasts.
Yeah, dude, I guess in a way.
Oh, real fast Black Metal album. Another one. Yeah, want to put on LP. Our homeboy Lori's supposed to be hooking us up with it, but it doesn't seem like it's happening. I heard about 2 years ago, as far as I'm concerned, is a band called Black Dawn.
Oh yeah,
and they did one album called Blood for Satan. That's a pretty fucking fast and ferocious record. Always loved that record. They're now called the True Black Dawn. I didn't even know it was the same band. And it's you put it on, you're like, oh, it's kind of lame. Like, where's that ferocious? It's kind of, dude. It's Sadist Swallowed in Black. You know, you had that fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
First album, you're like, fuck yeah. And then you got they come back with a new name, and you got some Swallowed in Black, and you're like, I didn't need it.
The Swallowed in Black suck. What is the heaviest record? What is the fastest record? Try to keep them in genres, but just nerd out. Everybody's going to nerd out anyway. I knew that with the big four. Everybody's putting them in their choices. Like, well, it's not really up to what you choose, but whatever. So whatever you will have from that, leave it in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, everything that you should know after you've committed to 50 minutes of a video.
So all we talking about this idiocy?
That's this idiocy. So, so ReaperMetalProductions.com, HellCastBangers.com. When you do all that, we will talk to you next time.